I have chosen one of my parents' death 5 minutes before it happened. It is a tragic and strangest story happened 7 years ago. This is the first time I am sharing it with someone. I haven't shared it even with my own mother. Year 2017, summer. I returned to my home country after 1 year from university abroad. My father picked me up from the airport and we had dinner at home. Everything was as usual as it could be. I went to bed at around 12 p.m. and slept immediately. I woke up around 5 a.m. to pee and went directly to the bathroom, which is in my room, so I didn't step out of my room. We all think different things when peeing, such as the color of the walls or what to eat for breakfast. For this time, out of nowhere, I started thinking that if I were to choose one, would I choose my mother or my father as being dead? Then I thought my sister would be devastated without my mother, and my father cannot handle my sister in her teenage years. I decided that absence of my father would be easier than losing my mother. I finished peeing and just about to get back to my bed. I heard a strong snoring noise. My father was always snoring since my childhood, and sometimes we were having fun with it. However, this time it felt stronger and not natural. The noise had led me to the living room, where I found my father lying on the couch with a little blood on his nose. I tried to wake him up, but he was unconscious. I called 911, woke my mother up, but once we arrived to the hospital, he was passed away. He was 48 years old. Doctors said it was because of a cerebral hemorrhage by high blood pressure. We don't know what time it happened. I am still confused with the situation. I wasn't there for 1 year and had the chance of having one last dinner and conversation with my father. I found him like that and acted with cold blood. I can't imagine the trauma they would have lived through if my mother or sister would have found him lying on the couch. And of course, I still think, why did I think such a thing in the bathroom? And what would have happened if I would have chosen my mother? Thank you for reading and sharing my memory. I quite literally can't believe what happened to me. Hi there, I'm a 39-year-old female, and this occurred I think a little over a year ago. This was a very real event. No drugs, no alcohol. I was in our bathroom, which has a line out of sight out the back window to where my hubby passes by before coming in the door. So I was just doing my hair and looked over to see him outside the window, walking up, switching the Kroger bag to his other hands to grab the keys, etc. Then heard the door and watched him walk by the kitchen. I said, "Hey baby," and he didn't hear me. Not surprising, his hearing isn't the best, but I heard him lay the bags down, then lay his keys and wallet down. So I stuck a clip in the last bit of my hair to do, and started out the bathroom door to go give him his hugs and kisses. Well, there he is. Instantly, when I walked outside the doorway of the bathroom, everything was completely different. All the lights were out, and they had certainly been on a moment prior. Totally weird. I felt shaky and whatnot, but I guess I managed to walk a few steps to look towards the kitchen, only to see that my husband wasn't even there. Then before I even had time to attempt to process what the hell just happened, I saw through our kitchen window his headlights coming down the driveway. It was then I started getting extra weirded out and for sure had to sit down. I remember I propped myself sitting on the edge of the couch arm, and the next part is what freaks me out to the absolute most. I couldn't believe my eyes at all. As I watched him walk across that window, it was like someone had just literally rewound the tape and was replaying it. The exact same motions, the exact same sound, all the way through, including him setting the keys and bags down. The only thing I could think at that point is how crazy I would actually sound if I told anyone this, except told my husband right when he got there. So I just want to know if anyone has any ideas of what happened. I am open to hear about it. It's the single most unbelievable existential type thing that's happened in my life. I will never ever forget it. Thank you to anyone who bothered to read/respond. I know a lot of y'all love to eat food while watching these types of videos. Yeah, I see those comments a lot. Well, here's something you might like to try. Factor, today's sponsor. They have created some delicious, already planned meals that are delivered right to your door, so you don't have to stress figuring out what you're having for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I also found that it helps you avoid fast food or having to order in all the time by providing chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals. All you have to do is heat it up and eat the delicious food, giving you more time to do your own thing, like playing on the game or editing videos for hours on end. It's perfect for those wanting no-hassle prepared foods. With with no prep or cleanup necessary. It also helped me stay on track with my fitness goals without overthinking of what I'm going to eat. Having these fresh, ready-to-go meals in the fridge is elite and a time saver. Look at these fresh and delicious options. And they have over 35 weekly meal options that fit your preferences, so you won't get bored. You could also adjust order size and skip a week if needed, no hassle. So head over to factor75.com or use the link below and use code BookOfAlice50 to get 50% off your first box. Boyfriend disappeared mid-conversation. This happened a few months ago, but I'm new to Reddit, so I'm just now finding a place to post about it. It was really weird and I still think about it sometimes. A few months ago, my boyfriend and I were coming home from a trip to visit my family. We live in a small second-floor apartment that overlooks our parking lots. We were unpacking the car, bringing stuff upstairs little by little, and my family had sent us with a lot of food, so one load we brought up all had to be unloaded into the fridge. As I was unloading the food, my boyfriend was standing at the counter, and we were having a full conversation. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it was something you wouldn't just walk away from. Anyways, he's standing there, and as I'm talking, I'm turned around to put something in the fridge, but when I looked back, he was gone. I was confused because again, we were in the middle of a conversation, but I was like, is he hiding from me? Is he playing a joke? So I started laughing and looking for him around the apartment. After a few minutes, I was like, what the heck is going on? Because he was nowhere to be found. Sometimes he steps onto the patio to smoke, so I opened that door, and well, he wasn't on our patio. I saw him downstairs unloading the car. I was really confused about how he got downstairs so fast and why he left in the middle of our conversation. Well, he came back up a few minutes later and had to knock because apparently the front door was locked and he didn't have his keys. How did the front door get locked with him outside without keys and me not knowing that somehow he left? The front door is in the kitchen I was in. I would have heard the door open and close, but I heard or saw nothing if he'd left. I was also just literally putting something down in the fridge, so I had my back to him for like a split second. How could he possibly get to the door so fast and I didn't see anything? None of it makes sense to me, and when I asked him about it, he had no idea what I was talking about, and no memory of our conversation while I was unloading food. So strange. Picture in my daughter's book has changed. My daughter got a book for Christmas. It's this really sweet little book that plays the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and each page has some sort of artwork on it. The first page has 4 ducks floating down the stream, 3 yellow ducks, and 1 brown duck. The ducks are all facing the same way. Now, this is important. My daughter is 1 year old, so right now she loves counting and repetition. Every time we see the ducks, she points them out, and I count them out loud. I've done this at least 100 times already. I'm not even kidding. She loves this book and won't leave it alone. My husband has also read it to her loads of times, and he saw that she was pointing at the ducks, so he started counting aloud too. I was reading it to her this morning. It's a very short book, only 8 pages, and my husband was watching. Everything was normal until my daughter flipped to the first page again with the ducks, and my husband and I at the same time went, what the fuck? The duck at the back of the line is facing the other way. I shit you not. I've looked at these ducks so many times over the last few days. I've counted them out, God knows how many times, and they were all facing the same way. I would literally bet my life on it. I thought at first I could maybe explain it as an overtired parent gets it wrong. Though honestly, I know this book like the back of my hand, so it seems like a massive stretch. But it's also the fact my husband noticed at the exact same time as me and was weirded out too. We both looked at each other and back at the duck and were both in agreement that it's changed. I've read things on this sub before and have always been like, ooh, cool, I wish something like this would happen to me. But now that it has, I feel nervous and also a bit crazy. I'm so glad my husband is in the same position as me though. It confirms I'm not going mad. Edit. Picture of the book in the comments for anybody who wants to have a look at the creepy ass ducks. Edit again. The dreaded picture. I witnessed the emergency scene of a car accident the next day. It never happened. No one in my neighborhood recalls it ever happening. I'm really scared. Due to privacy concerns, I cannot disclose my exact location. I live in a rural city in Washington state, and there was a major collision on the road near my house early Wednesday morning last week. I was on my way to work but got stopped by local deputies directing traffic at the accident scene. I had to call my manager and tell her I would run late due to the backup. Well, I tuned into the local news after work to hear the details, and as it turns out, there was no accident. I understand that a minor crash could escape the local news headlines, but this involved the multiple vehicles. I remember seeing 3 ambulances parked next to the police. It was nuts. The following day, I scouted the local news and police Facebook updates to learn more about the large wreck, only to find it empty. I've asked neighbors and local police about it, and they have no recollection of it ever happening. Even worse, a local resident that I was chatting with on the morning of the accident was nowhere to be found today. On my way home this afternoon, I asked a local dog walker near the previous accident scene if he knew the guy I was talking to the previous day. I described the witness from head to toe, so there wasn't any confusion. At first, the dog walker looked at me with a dumbfounded expression, and then his expression changed to one of annoyance, as if he thought I was making a stupid joke. He told me that the guy I had allegedly spoken to had been dead for over a year. I don't know what to make of this. Here's the top reply to this story. Don't rely on the news to know if something really happened. One night in San Francisco, my partner and I watched from our apartment as a car drove on the Caltrain tracks, followed by 2 unmarked police cars. The driver flees on foot. The train, full of commuters from the South Bay, had to be notified to stop. Helicopters with searchlights looking for the driver, cops and canines everywhere, a lot of city resources being used. Nothing in the news the next day or any after that. It was crazy, and we still have no idea what happened, but a ton of people were affected, yet it wasn't newsworthy apparently. Was told my future in a Witherspoon pub in Manchester. This happened years ago, and after some scrolling on here, it reminded me of when I met this really off, weird guy in a pub in Manchester, whose vibes, when I think about it, give me chills to my core. In 2018, I went to go watch Chase and Status at the Academy. Now, beforehand, I went for a meal and some drinks with my ex. Whilst we are having a drink, there's this really strange guy at the bar area near us. And what weirded me out about this guy is I had a close friend pass away from a drug overdose a few months prior at the age of 19. But this random fella's vibe just gave me a really similar feeling to my friend, even though the man was a lot older. As we're in the pub and drinks are flowing, I get speaking to this fella, and he seems nice enough, and he mentions I'm a clairvoyant, asking, do you want me to tell you your future? I hate stuff like this, and it weirds me out. I don't want no bad news or worrying about something before it happens. My partner at the time wanted to hear what he had to say though, so he told me my future. At the time, it annoyed me because she's the one who asked, why am I getting the rundown? So he told me, all of this happened by the way, that I'm going to fuck up and lose my girlfriend, which we didn't want to hear before I'm trying to go to a rave with her. He then said I'm going to get into a fight and lose my front teeth, and I'm going to get stabbed, and all these things will happen within 3 months. My partner at the time shrugged it off and just told me not to listen to him. He's a loon. Now, after dropping these bombshells on me, he casually eats 3 Xanax in front of me and gave me this weird as fuck familiar smile, downs his drink, and just walks off. The friend who passed away, Xanax, was involved, and I can't explain it. I know I sound crazy, but I just feel so weirded out by the interaction. Lo and behold, the most specific events he told me were going to happen did happen, and happened all within 3 months of each other, exactly how he said it. I've literally just asked my ex if she remembered the encounter, because it was one of the most strange of my life. Guy disappeared in front of my coworker and I. About 2 years ago, I was working at a dispensary with another girl. It was slow at the time, so we were standing near the counter chatting, and both happened to be looking out the window when we both witnessed a man walking down the sidewalk and then behind a tree, a quite skinny tree, and completely vanished. Where our viewpoint was, we would have been able to see where he went, regardless of the direction. We both saw the same thing and were freaked out, and continue to bring it up during the course of our working together. I have thought about this last 2 years and can't wrap my head around what we saw. A reply. Myself and two of my children saw something similar. As we approached an intersection, we saw a child, 4 or 5 years old, running up the other side of the road, but running like he was hiding from someone, ducking and diving, and on the last dive down behind a car, he never came back up again. We thought it was funny and looked for the owner, lol, but there was no adults nearby. This concerned all of us because it was a busy road with no adults. The child could have been run over by a car very easily. I took the corner and parked up just to make sure that the child was okay, or to see if he was lost maybe. My son got out and walked up and down the oath that the child was running on, but still nothing. Weirdest 2 minutes of our lives. The three of us saw him, and we saw how he just vanished in a flash. There's nowhere to run to on that street. It's a straight road, so if running ahead, you'll just be seen. It's just bizarre. I just found my sister's missing necklace. It's impossible that it would be here though. My sister moved multiple states away 3 years ago. Her husband gives her very thoughtful jewelry pieces every Mother's Day. They're always extremely sentimental and bespoke to convey a specific sentiment or memory. 2 years ago, he gave her a gold necklace with a heart, carved inside with their family's initials and a year of birth, with diamonds to the center where the heart meets a point, because it's their daughter's birthstone. Since being given that gift, she's never left the States to visit home. She's also never been to my current house, even before leaving. I also live pretty far away from home, and my family hasn't made the visit, but I've lived here 7 years now, and haven't moved or spent long visits with my family, just daytime drop-ins. My sister's necklace went missing sometime in spring last year. She thought it may have broken and fallen off while out and about, and she was very distressed about it because it was an expensive gift, and felt horrible about it going missing. When we chatted about it, she actually told me she wasn't going to tell her husband about it until she's searched everywhere possible. The entire house, the car, her workplace. She even called the stores she's shopped at regularly, asking if it was found and turned in, but nothing. Just this week, I was pulling out old clothes and shoes to donate. My son went through a growth spurt and I got wider, and I figured it was time to clean the house. I was pulling out all the shoes and purses at the bottom of my closet, and there in the very back of my closet, I found my sister's necklace. There's absolutely no way that this could have ended up here. My sister hasn't come over to visit, and there's no way this would have ended up in our state, in my house, without her having mailed it personally, and she's never mailed me anything besides sending gifts directly from the seller that she'd never had personally touched. And it's not as though it's a similar looking piece or a mass-produced item. This was specifically carved with their birth years and initials, and their daughter's diamond birthstone. But it gets even more strange. I immediately FaceTime her when I find it. I was already trying to figure out how on earth it would have come to be in my closet. I haven't gone to her state yet. My son hasn't visited there. Our parents had, but they went before she had even gotten the gift. When she picked up and I showed her what I had found, I was honestly bracing myself because I was sure she was going to be just as confused and have a million questions I couldn't answer. But then I showed her that I found it, and she set the phone down to put herself in a full view and pulled out her necklace from under her blouse. She had her necklace. Not just that, she had no recollection of losing it, no memory at all, talking to me about losing it, searching her house, or calling shops. In fact, she was sure she's always had it in her jewelry box and thought I was being weird about finding the same one, because it's likely a really common necklace. When I pointed out that it had their same initials and birth years carved into it, she just shrugged and said it was a coincidence, but not all that strange. When I pressed it, she laughed and assumed that I was pulling a prank of some kind, which is extremely out of my character. I'm not one to pull pranks, and asked if I had made it as some kind of joke. I'm at a total loss here. I feel like reality is all jumbled up, and I'm the only one who noticed it's off. I was so confused, so I called our mom and told her what had happened. I told her the whole thing, asking if she recalled her losing the necklace. I was sure if she did it would have come up in their calls as well. She didn't recall anything, but the way she acted in the call was even more strange. She says, "Well, these things happen. Don't let it drive you crazy. Our family is just sensitive to these things," and then wouldn't elaborate on it, which is very unlike her character. My boyfriend understood Japanese for a minute. Short, but it has been weirding me out since it happened, and I thought maybe it belonged here. A couple of nights ago, my boyfriend and I were sitting in our living room watching One Piece. My boyfriend gets up to grab a snack from the kitchen, while we let the episode keep playing. Our kitchen and living room are separated by a thin wall, as the kitchen leads to the living room, so he could still hear the episode well in case any action picked up. Well, one character says something along the lines of, "Why do you care about this woman anyways? She's a criminal." Mind you, we were watching subbed, so all this is in Japanese. I'm reading subtitles, but my boyfriend can't at the moment. But after the character asked that question, my boyfriend from the kitchen yells, "Because she's my friend, dumbass." I pause the episode immediately and walk into the kitchen and ask how my boyfriend knew what they were saying. He got this look of realization followed by confusion and horror on his face. His exact response was, "I don't know, I just don't know." He's never spoken another language other than English, never taken any Japanese classes, never even downloaded Duolingo. We are both just creeped out by it. ETA. I don't believe he watched the episode without me, as we don't care of each other as a couple of episodes ahead sometimes. He will usually tell me when he does, like, "Hey, I watched these episodes while you were asleep, so I know what happens," but he claims he didn't watch ahead this time. The top reply reads, "One time I clicked a link that led me to a website based in France. I didn't realize at first that it wasn't English and was reading the website just fine. Suddenly, I realized it was in another language and couldn't read the website anymore. I had been taking intro Spanish at the time, so I'm sure some of the words were similar, but it was still a strange experience." 29 years ago, I jumped to a parallel existence after a near-death experience. Let me start by saying this will be long. My heart is already beating fast telling the story. Only those closest to me know that this happened until now. When I was 25 years old, I was driving home from work one night. I lived in Los Angeles at the time. I was driving on Sunset Boulevard, heading west towards my apartment in Brentwood. For those that are not familiar with the area, there is an expanse of Sunset near UCLA that is very curvy. It is 2 lanes on either side with no shoulder. It was 8:30 on a Saturday night, so there was some traffic. I was driving along, and all of a sudden, about 50 feet in front of me, I saw a car, but I was looking at the passenger door. A car had spun out of control and was perpendicular in my lane. I didn't have time to stop. I looked to my right and saw that there was a car next to me, so I had nowhere to go. I instinctively turned my car all the way to the right anyway. Once I had cleared the first car, I spun it all the way to the left, still trying to avoid the second car. While all of this was happening, I remembered a time with my mom at Disney World when I was 3 years old. This is not a memory I had ever had. I vaguely remember parts of that trip, but this memory was not one of them. I realized that my life was flashing before me and I was going to die. I had never been so sure of anything. Every part of me knew I was about to die. I started screaming. To this day, I don't know if I vocalized anything or it was all in my head. I yelled, no, this isn't fair. I'm not done yet. All the while swerving all over Sunset Boulevard. I suddenly stopped my car and I was now perpendicular in the opposing lane of traffic. I looked around and there was not a single car anywhere. It was like everything had been wiped clean. I put my car in reverse and proceeded home. I did not see a single car the rest of the way. I was only 5 minutes away from home at that point, but Sunset Boulevard on a Saturday night was completely empty. I got to my apartment and parked on the street. I didn't see one person. While walking to my apartment, I came to the conclusion that I had died, and because I said no, I was stuck in some sort of limbo. I had never wanted my roommate to be home so badly. Unfortunately, she wasn't. I called one of my best friends and said, "I need to ask you some questions. Please just answer me and I'll explain it after." I asked her my name, my age, what city we lived in, and the date. Obviously, she was very alarmed. I explained that I thought I was dead and I wasn't sure I was really on the phone with her. She tried to convince me that I was alive and that everything was okay. There was no way mathematically to escape it. There was nowhere for the car on the right to go. This moment has haunted me my whole life. There have been times when I have questioned my existence. I've wondered if my life since has been a very detailed death trip, and I'm actually lying on Sunset Boulevard bleeding out. After many years of meditation, spiritual practice, and a belief in quantum physics, I wonder what life I jumped into. My mom saw my wedding picture on my phone as my lock screen. I'm 18 and never been married. My mom was sitting on the couch tonight and I was standing next to her to the right with my phone on the armrest. I clicked open my phone to show her something and quickly typed in my passcode. With the phone still on the armrest, she very casually said, "That's your wedding picture," and pointed to the screen. I asked her what she meant and she said, "Your lock screen, that's your wedding picture." My lock screen picture is just a picture of some palm trees from my trip to California. My home screen is also just a different picture of trees. I flipped through all of my tabs and there were no photos open that could have even remotely resembled a wedding picture. When I showed her my lock screen again, the picture of the palm trees appeared. She seemed a bit shocked and said it was weird. She just said, "I saw someone in a wedding dress," after I questioned her another 10 times about it, and eventually dropped it. When she initially said it, I felt like I saw it too. It was the weirdest thing. I feel like I saw it, but it instantly left my memory, and I couldn't remember what the picture even looked like. I believe her that she saw it. Could this be a glitch that showed me my future? Edit. Here's a picture of my lock screen. Edit 2. My mom is in her 40s and very mentally sharp. Never had any symptoms of dementia or anything of the sort. I fully feel that I saw the picture too, but the memory of its contents was instantly wiped. Another reason I disagree with the suggestion of my mom displaying signs of dementia, it was a very eerie feeling. I even remember telling my mom multiple times I saw it too. My memory of the entire interaction is very foggy though. Very weird considering it happened less than 24 hours ago. The craziest thing just happened to me. Woke up around 3 a.m. from an annoying lamp light in my sister's house. Filmed on iPhone X. No other light sources were turned on in the room. And this is not a reflection. That was so surreal and weird. Here's the video. Edit number 1. Some people are asking for recent pics of the room, so I uploaded them here. Edit number 2. Second night, 12:05 a.m. So far nothing, both lamps, real and the mirror one, are off. Checked the curtains and there was no way the light from the windows could somehow reflect through to this mirror. Still have no idea how this could happen yesterday. Edit number 3, 1:05 a.m. Still nothing. Also, please stop saying you saw some ghost in the video. I am scared as hell already, so I have just convinced myself you all talk about moving chairs lower part. Hahaha. Edit number 4, 2:17 a.m. No sign of anything similar to the yesterday light in the mirror. Everything looks normal. I'm really tired. I haven't slept since yesterday, so I'm just going to turn on all the lights everywhere. Yes, I'm that scared to sleep without lights on now, and go to sleep. Gonna try to re-upload original and today's video in higher quality sometime tomorrow. Edit number 6. Oh wow, RIP inbox. Sorry for not further updating the post. I am alive and well, just was really busy with work and personal stuff. I see that the thread is now locked, so I will try to bring you an update with a source quality video and my next posts in a couple of days. I met me from the future and I can't stop thinking about it. This is a story that haunts me daily. This happened in 1992. I had just graduated high school and was working in a warehouse. I kinda enjoyed it and settled thinking I will probably retire here. Yup, I had zero ambition. I was a sad, lazy, cringe-inducing shitbag. A new guy started. It's a warehouse with high turnover, so nothing unusual about new guys, and everyone asked if we were related because we looked alike. He was probably late 30s, early 40s, and I was 18 at the time, and he was fatter. He seemed to carry himself like me, the way he walked and spoke. His second day, we worked together on a wrapping station, and the first thing he said to me was, "You still have that Penthouse magazine under your mattress?" I did. Weird but totally normal for teen boys, I suppose. He then said, "I know everything about you. You are worried about never getting a girlfriend." I was floored, but I again thought it was a usual teenage thing. I mean, I wasn't the best looking guy, so I guess it wasn't a stretch to guess. Probably the start of bullying and the end of my job, as one thing I liked most about myself is that I have no problems fighting anyone, anywhere, anytime. No matter how big or how many, I was always down. I never won, but could take a beating and the person usually quit and never messed with me again. I asked him why he was saying all this shit, and he looked at me and his expression is seared into my mind and left an image I see daily. He said, "I am you." He then went on to tell me everything about myself. I mean, my deepest, darkest secrets that no one knows. Then he kept telling me more about myself. Then we went to lunch and were outside smoking. And yep, same brand, Camel White regulars. Hard to find where I live, so I never seen anyone else smoke them. I asked him to be serious and how he knew all this shit. He said, "I already told you, Tom Thok." Tom Thok is a nickname only one person called me, and he was my dad's friend I barely saw. A crappy Jetta pulled into the parking lot, and he said, "That's our girl. She is a demon who is horrible to us." I asked him why he is with her, and he said she is the best we could do. When she got out, she was disgusting looking. I mean, trailer trash would be too kind, and she waddled her ass over to us. She said, "Let's go." Before he left, he stared right into my soul and said, "We deserve better. Please go to college and stop being lazy and make something out of yourself." Trailer Park Girl just kinda laughed like, "Yeah, right." He left with her, and I never saw him again. I think I ran into a younger version of her at a friend's house years later, and he introduced me and said we should hook up. I said no. I went to college and stopped being a pathetic, lazy cringe fist. I accomplished everything I set out to do, as I always felt the need to not let him down. I know none of this makes sense. How can I explain something that I can barely understand myself? None of it makes sense whatsoever. Like, why would a future me get a job with me? He had to fill out a job application and have his references checked, right? Yes, I asked my manager, who was a piece of shit, who just told me to mind my own damn business and to focus on my job and try to be less of a screw up. Has anyone had something like this happen to them? It's haunted me daily since. I am 48 years old and have not seen any time travel machines. Help me out here. Maybe end this once and for all? Please tell me your experience. I apologize for any grammar or anything like that, but I don't want to go over this anymore than I have to, as I usually get really depressed when I think about this. I bought my daughter the Stephen King book, Everything's Eventual, for Christmas. She came into town and we had Christmas early. She took her book with her when she left. I had told her I wanted to read it when she was done. She came home the other day and put her suitcase in her room. I got home from work this morning at around 7:30. The book was on the foot of my bed. I was like, oh, she must have finished it. I read a few pages, then went to sleep. When I woke up this evening, I had asked her if she liked the book. She said she hadn't read it yet. I told her I saw she put it on my bed, so I figured she was done. She didn't put it on my bed. She left it in her suitcase. She hadn't been back in the house after I left until 1 p.m. that day. Someone really wants me to read that book. A customer called me from the future today. I'm a sales manager at a very well-known auto parts store. Our store is kind of on the smaller side, so we typically only have 2 people working at a time. We sometimes order parts directly from our vendors for customers if they're for rare or classic cars, and thus something we don't need to stock. When the parts come in, we call the customer to let them know they're ready for pickup. Today we received a call from one of our regulars. I answer and he says, "Hey, I see I just missed 2 calls back to back from you guys. Are my parts in?" I let him know we haven't received our truck yet, and neither me or my coworker have made a call all day. I even checked the recent calls and verify no outgoing calls have been made since yesterday evening. He informs me he's on his cell phone and looking at the 2 missed calls in his log as we speak. We talk about how weird it is and hang up. Within 5 minutes, his parts show up. I go to call him back, and after the first ring, accidentally end the call. I immediately hit redial, and as soon as the phone begins ringing, it dawns on me that I've just called him twice back to back. He didn't answer, and I'm still wondering what happened. Please help. I've switched dimensions and I need to go back. Sorry for the formatting, I'm on mobile. I'm 24 and I'm positive I've jumped to another dimension. I'm not trolling, I'm not joking, I'm dead serious and I need help. I'm new to all of this and I didn't do this on purpose. So it starts with my little sister's boyfriend. My family swears we knew him before he and her were dating. He has tons of memories with me, but I didn't know him until she brought him home one day. I have no memory of him whatsoever. It bothered me, but I brushed it off. Then my friend Cheyenne was telling me About this time, she hung out with me and my friend Ashley, how we made cheesecakes, sang karaoke, and tons of other things. I thought she was joking because I have no memories of it at all. None. But I called Ashley, and she remembers it and is confused as to why I don't. And I feel like I'd remember that because Cheyenne and Ashley aren't friends, like different social circles. They only met because of me. So why wouldn't I remember us all hanging out? Next, I was talking to my friend Carrie, and I asked her why our friend from high school got divorced. She told me our friend Nicole was never married. She lived with the guy, but I know Nicole married the guy because she invited me to the wedding and I couldn't get off work to go, and I felt bad. I remember where they got married. I remember her dress. I remember the cake and how it looked like. I remember the pictures of it and everything, but it never happened apparently. But I remember it happening. I remember seeing the pictures on Facebook and I went back to look, but they weren't there. And finally, my relationship with my boyfriend has always been amazing. We have our moments like any other couple, but nothing major. We've always had a good relationship, but it all changed all of a sudden. Literally, I woke up one day and everything was different. He's very hateful, very rude, and not affectionate at all. He's always been affectionate with me, but now he barely even gives me attention, and this just isn't normal for us. Those are the major things, but there's smaller things too, like lyrics to songs being slightly different when I know that it's wrong, especially songs that I love and listen to all the time. They're slightly different now. I do have anxiety and borderline personality disorder, full disclosure, but I've always been able to manage them, and I've never experienced something like this before. I don't think it's mental illness. I just don't know what to do, and I don't like it here. Any help, advice, anything is greatly appreciated. Something weird and unexplainable happened at my friend's house. This is the first glitch I've experienced. So I was at my friend's house the other day and we got some drinks from the kitchen and then went up to his room to play some video games. He put his glass of water on his bookshelf and then turned around to shut his door. In doing so, he knocked over the full glass of water and it went all over the floor. My friend was pretty pissed as it got over quite a few of his books as well. So we went downstairs to get some kitchen towels and came back up like 30 seconds later. When we opened his door, we noticed that the wet patch on the floor was gone, so we felt it and it was bone dry. His books that got wet were dry too, and we couldn't find the glass that we'd left on the floor either. It was then when we looked up and saw a full glass of water sitting on the bookshelf. No one could have put it there, as we were home alone at the time. I have discovered an actual NPC. I've been on a bit of a binge on these stories and it made me wonder if I have experienced anything like this, and I thought back and realized I have. Although not as freaky or crazy as most, I'm quite a skeptical person, but this always has me at a loss. My girlfriend's family lives a little ways away from me, and so often I'll drive us over to visit them. Without fail, and I mean every time, when we leave back home, and for some reason only when we leave the town to head back home, this man is out walking his dog at the exact same position. Now, sure, it could of course just be his routine, and I'm just having a time coincidence, right? Nah, we're talking it could be 3 p.m. or it could be 11 p.m. and he's always cutting the corner exactly when we pass, as if he's spawning in. It's so odd. It's like seeing its replay over and over and over again. It's always so consistent. We always mention it on the way back and check, and without a doubt, he's there. I play a lot of video games, and I swear to you, if this was happening in a game, I'd be complaining about the lack of NPC variation. LMAO. One of these days, I'm going to just be brave and pull over and just politely ask how frequently he walks his dog. Who knows, maybe he's thinking, damn, every time I be walking my dog, that white car passes. Edit. Wow, didn't expect this to blow up so much. I'll edit again and update if anything wild happens or if it continues. Thanks for all the pleasant responses. Something happened to me and I am now severely depressed and confused. To cut the long story short, I had been asleep for 3 days due to a head injury that I sustained in home. In those 3 days, I have lived to be 21 years old. It's very difficult to explain, but here's how it goes. I was a Caucasian Filipino boy living in Manila. I had two siblings and had a single mother. I was also an athlete. I was a scholar in college due to the fact that I was a great one. My sport was track and field. Everything seemed so real. I had family members who loved me and would tell me stories of how I was a child, how they would talk to me in my mother's womb. I remember speaking to them in the Filipino language, and now I cannot even understand what those words mean. I would also browse Reddit in my free time. What gives me the chills is that I have also subscribed to this exact thread, and in my time in the Philippines, the year and the date is the same as it is now. It is only delayed for a day, because I am now back to being a 29-year-old Mexican boy. I also had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend, and I was madly in love with her. I remember courting her and eating at malls with her in Manila. What is also driving me crazy is when I searched online for the malls that we've been to. It all exists, even the restaurants. I remember losing my virginity to her and going to places with her. I also remember having fights with my brother, fights with strangers when I go to clubs. The pain is very real, and I had 4 buddies who would always smoke weed with me. I graduated in high school and I had a pig cat. Everything was fucking real. I also had dreams, and I talked to my friends about death and if God existed. We were Catholic, and it was a very conservative country. Everything was real, until one time I was drinking with my buddies at a bar when we got into a fight. There was this dude who hit me in the head, and everything went dark. I woke up with a very painful neck and the most painful headache I had ever felt. I was in the hospital. The first person I saw was my sister and my cousin. They told me that I was unconscious for 3 days. During the time, I was having a panic attack because I was so confused and terrified and was thinking if it was because of the medicines inside my body or whatnot. I was just discharged 4 days ago, and I am now having suicidal thoughts. I cannot tell reality from fiction anymore. I want to tell my family about it, but I don't think they're the type to believe and would generally disregard it. I do not know what to do, and I don't know what happened. There is more that I want to say, but I can't really put everything into words. Everything was real, and now everything is real again. Where is my kid? I have 4 kids. I know I have 4 kids, but recently I just feel like there should be another one, but it's missing. When we go out, I head count and get flustered because I can't find the extra one. I have to consciously remind myself that there are only 4, but my heart just doesn't believe it. Well, I just put it down as one of those weird feelings and push it aside. Then my parents sent money to my kids. They sent $500. I called them and asked why they sent me so much. They were confused and said that they told me they were sending $100 per kid. I reminded them that I only have 4 kids. They went silent for a moment, then just kind of laughed and said that they were getting old because they were thinking that there was 5. Then tonight my daughter walked into the lounge room. She looked around. I know we're all here, but our family feels small. My son agreed. I hadn't said anything to anyone about my feelings lately because they already think I'm ancient and forgetful at 40 years old. Thanks for reading if you've made it this far. Does anyone else ever have these feelings? As a child, I might have predicted my year of death. It happens to be 2020. I'm 34 years old now, and this story goes back to the year 2005 when I was looking through an old photo album together with my now ex-girlfriend. My mother made a photo album exclusively with pictures of me from birth until approximately 2004, so it was a good occasion to show her my early years. As we came to the last blank page of the album, we found the year dates 1985 through 2020, written in child handwriting, obviously. I'd say no older than 8 or 9 years old. Of course, I immediately recognized my writing style, and we were both spooked as hell because my year of birth is 1985. Back then in 2005, I was obsessed with a band called The Network and their album Money Money 2020, which gave me some extra chills, so I didn't know what to say. It was absolutely surreal. We instantly closed the photo album and never talked about it again, but of course, I never really forgot what I've seen there. I even eradicated the 2020 a few weeks or months later in the album and replaced it with an acceptable date of death, but the year 2020 was already stuck in my head. I learned to live with the thought, although it came back on New Year's Eve 2019 to 2020 when I was facing the fateful year. I was pretty confident that I would make it through the year without harm, and bam, coronavirus pandemic strikes us. Unfortunately, I have a heart condition that might not be too good when catching the virus, and now I'm completely freaked out that I won't make it through the year. Anyone with ideas or similar experiences? Edit. As there are lots of DMs and requests, I'm still very much alive and doing well. 28/12/2021. Thanks for asking. The strangest thing happened yesterday. Insane. Yesterday I decided to drive to the mall. The one I go to is massive, it's circular, you can drive around it. It has a massive car park on one side, so all seems normal on my way to the mall with my girlfriend, who is still in shock as I am, to be honest. We haven't really spoken about it since. So as we get there, it looks really quiet. There's about 10 cars there, so I'm questioning whether or not it's open, which is really weird. So we drive around the other side just to see what is going on, and there's a few people about and a few cars, but nothing. So we decided to go around back to the first side where we normally park, and our plan is to walk to the entrance and see what's up. This is where it gets weird. As we pull up around the other side, the whole car park is full. There's literally people walking about everywhere. People sat outside having coffee. There was even 2 ambulances. So very, very weird. Me and my girlfriend were unbelievably shocked. We were speechless. We literally sat in the car for about 10 minutes, just trying to wrap our heads around it, and I haven't felt right since, to be honest. The time difference for driving around was about 2 minutes. It would have been physically impossible for all them cars and people to get there, and for it to be empty beforehand. What happened? I would love to hear your thoughts. It might help me feel like I'm not going crazy. Edit. Thanks for the responses, guys. Honestly, there are 2 questions you guys are asking me here that I need to address, I think. You guys are asking if I'm sure I went to the same car park. I have been going to the same place for years. It's a very basic layout. Imagine a football stadium, but bigger. On either side, 2 outdoor car parks, 2 entrances, and at the top and bottom, 2 main roads. I'm 1000% sure it was the same car park. Number 2, you're saying I should have filmed it and drove around again. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. I just sat there not really understanding what happened. Even now I'm still questioning myself, etc. The last thing I wanted to do was drive around the other way and see what would happen then. Missing 4 hours and ended up on a military base. I was encouraged to share my story here after making a TikTok about the event. About 20 years ago, my best friend and myself went to Ridgecrest, California for a party. The party ended up being a 50th wedding anniversary, and we were improperly dressed for it. We ate at the banquet hall. Left to the home of my friend's cousin. We left a short time later, headed back to Bakersfield. I was sitting in the driver's seat, she was in the passenger seat, and we began to enter the freeway on-ramp. That was the last memory either of us had until 4 hours later. I kind of woke up, but I didn't feel like I was sleeping. I more or less became aware of our surroundings, and that I was in the passenger seat. I looked over at my friend, and her eyes were staring into the dark distance. Quickly, I realized we had somehow ended up on a dirt road. I yelled her name. She kind of snapped back to reality. There was a chain link fence along the driver's side of the car with barbed wires atop. The road was graded, but the surrounding field was not. For some reason, we were going 30 or 40 miles per hour down the dirt road, and we started freaking out. Almost immediately, we drove right up to a white sign, about 20 by 30. It had the large red and black letters. The top portion read, "Warning." The bottom, "Active landmine field." I screamed for us to turn around, and my friend hit a U-turn in the dirt as we both screamed at the top of our lungs. By this point, we are both in a full panic. We have no idea where we are, how this happened, where we are going, but we are moving. She's driving 50 to 60 miles per hour in the Tahoe, heading the opposite direction. We traveled maybe 2 minutes max. Suddenly, we see lights from every direction approaching just as fast as we are running, if not faster. When they got within 100 yards or so, they turned on their sirens, and we realized it was police. Military police. We had somehow ended up deep inside of a military base. They came driving through ungraded desert to stop us. We were removed from the vehicle. two 20-something girls in party clothes sobbing. The MPs asked us how we got there. They asked what gate we had come in. They kept us in a desert for hours. My friend was put in the back of an MP car for a good portion of it, while I sat in the dirt, leaned against the fence. They ran our names and discovered my friend had someone write something bad on her account a few counties away, but nothing else. We were questioned, and finally, after 4 hours, we were released. They escorted us out of a gate. We realized we were now on the north side of the city, when we had left originally from her cousins on the south side of Ridgecrest. We went home, told maybe 5 or 6 people who all either assumed we were crazy or straight up lying. We stopped telling it until recently I told my fiance. Then I made a TikTok which way more people watched than I expected, and here I am. We were not on any type of psychedelic drugs. We both shared the same memory, including the time lapse. If I was alone in the car, I would have thought it was a dream. It was the scariest experience of my life. I would have posted this from a throwaway account, but you need karma credit to post here.